Okay. I think this is gonna work. Very dangerous, but it should work. Is it really that important that the ladder is balanced on something? It seems like that would be dramatic, right? One leg is fine. Yeah, no. Probably not a great idea. I'm gonna try it anyways, though. Not on camera, because then y'all will yell at me. And if I don't do it on camera, they can be like, oh, I was just joking. I didn't do it that way. I did it some other way. Safety first. Don't do this. Heads up, garden friends. Jeff, here's what we do. Hope you're doing well. I'm great. Beautiful day. It's like 73. Very unusually cool. And I am hanging up an extremely heavy hanging basket onto a hanger that I don't know could, maybe not. I don't think it's going to hold the weight. It might not hold the weight. I don't know. We're going to find out. And while I'm at it, I should find some adhesive and fix those squares. It was really hot the last couple weeks, and the sun melted that adhesive. I'm procrastinating because I know this isn't a great idea, but I've been over here and like, look, that's stable. As long as I stay leaning this way, that's not going anywhere. Also, I'm pretty sure I've done this before and everything was fine. The problem is this thing, this basket, it is very heavy. So I should be waiting for another person because I think this would be easier if I had somebody to hand it up to me. It's already tangled up. I just set it here. Oh, if there's supposed to be some kind of intro where I explain what's going on in this video, you've got to the wrong channel. It's not happening. I never know what's happening in these videos. We just pick up the camera and whatever I get done by the time it's time to edit the video, usually several days later, then that's what it is. Maybe it'll be fun. I don't know. I hope so. That's always the goal. First thing I need to do is handle this. And if it were smaller, I would do this on camera, but I think it's a bad idea. I need two hands for this. Did it. And I did have help. I had somebody come out and help me. Somebody just spot me and lift the basket up from underneath. I'm not making that up. I really did have somebody come out and help. And the ladder was perfectly stable. It was leaning this way, had the palm trunk, and I wouldn't have gotten on it if I thought it was actually dangerous. Besides, I was only like, well, that's not a good excuse. I was going to say I wasn't that high up, but I know people who have died from falling pretty short distances, so. Anyways, look at the basket. Isn't it pretty? Gonna need some time to even out. It's been through it. You know, a begonia. You barely touch them, and they just crumble to pieces. So there were some casualties. Lost a few pieces getting it up there, and lost a few pieces repotting it. It'll flush back out. I really like the sweet potato vine in here. I cannot wait for this red one to get going. That's the mahogany, and this one's called like bewitched green or something light green. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I have the tag. I have the tag for the mahogany right here. Oh, and you know, here's the other one right there. If you were wondering, I like the leaf shape on it. Sweet Caroline light green. I knew it was something basic, but you never know with proven winners. I figured it'd probably be something like fairy dust sparkler lime twist pina colada something. But no, it's just Sweet Caroline light green. That's also pretty ridiculous for a sweet potato vine. You get it. I think that's gonna be really pretty when we start to get more even growth out of these. I forgot to cut the tag off. There, it was right in front of me, and I don't know about pulling on it. I'm tempted to pull. I'm not going to pull. That's a bad idea. I'll remember to get some scissors later. And at this point, what are we? Almost 4 minutes of Jeff hangs up a basket. It was fun for me. I hope you enjoyed it too. Yay. It needed to get done. Look at this lavender I picked up from the grocery store. It's just an English lavender called Blue Spear. The fragrance on this is just phenomenal. It smells so good. And it was only 15 bucks. $16.99. Love that. Great deal. I just wiped the dirt off this tag on the new table. It's not a great way to do things. Zone 6 through 8, full sun. Good bloomer, requires excellent drainage and drought tolerant. 11 to 13 inches high. That's the Blue Spear. I'm loving it. It smells so nice. I would like to find a shallow planter of some kind to pop this in and maybe just keep it over here as a centerpiece on the table. It's a really good spot to have something that smells nice. I had planted this guy over here, what's his nuts? Catalpa, El Nino Catalpa, in that spot because I've wanted all that fragrance, but it decided it wanted to bloom in May and not in the summer. I don't know. I'm sure that'll sort itself out. Yeah, I don't know what else we're going to do here. I'm going to keep my eyes open for a pot to put that lavender in. It's supposed to be nice and cool, so this would be a good time to get it repotted or even just exchange the pot. Maybe even a wooden bowl. That wooden bowl up there might work. The bromeliads that are in there, they fried. So I could do that. Just don't want to mess with its roots. Oh, that's something to think about. It's getting late. It was just one of those things where it was bugging me. I wanted to get it done, and now this is bugging me. The flappy guys, I gotta handle that. Yeah, maybe we'll do that next. Who knows? I have no idea what's going to happen next. Whatever it'll be probably be tomorrow or in a few days. I don't know. Hey, baby. How you doing? Jojo goes swamp monster. Hey, bite. How you doing? Nothing? Won't even acknowledge me? Bunkin. Hi. How you doing? So cute. Everybody's here. It's the next day. Hi, Turbo. Got the thing done. Whatever I was doing, it's done. Which needs to be throwing out those flowers. I'll get to it eventually. The lavender. We'll have a look at it in a minute. That's what I was doing. I have some new hand sanitizer here. And by some, I mean quite a bit. 2, 3, and then no, we got a leaker here. That's not good. All right, 4 with a loose lid, and 5. I know what you're wondering. Hey, why? Well, it's a long story. They, of course, I've been dating for a long time. Oh no, here's another one. I knew there were more. Yeah, he lives in we'll say an abandoned salon. Long story. Don't need to go into all those details. I guess we could, because you'll be seeing some of this on the channel. We'll be covering some stuff. Not a news network. I have other things here. Some hair products. And a moisturizing foot mask. Fine. So, the salon, I wouldn't say is abandoned. It's a home. First floor salon, second floor apartment. Bay's former spouse, who passed away a few years ago, owned the salon. So they own the salon together, and salon shut down when their spouse passed away, and it's just been in shambles because Bay is a chef and works like 14, 16-hour days. Not always, but for a long time. And they've taken some time off so we can finally get this place fixed up and go through everything. One of the stylists left behind, or they belong to the salon, I'm unclear on all of that. Wigs, and when I say left behind some wigs, I mean boxes and boxes and boxes. Last night alone we inventoried 200, and that was maybe a fourth of everything. There's got to be around 1,000 wigs in this place, so we're gonna be putting on a big sale with all kinds of hair products, curling irons and flat irons, hair dryers, and then salon equipment like the wash buckets and the hair dryer things you sit in. And for some reason, there are like 40 bottles of hand sanitizer. I don't know why. There was a pandemic going on because everything shut down a few years ago, so I don't know if that was like an auto subscription. I don't know. I said, you know what? I'm going to take some home because my nephew, this little critter, he's always sick. He's always got something going on, so I sanitize my hands a lot when I'm around that little dude. So that's why all the hand sanitizer. And not only is the place getting gutted and fixed up, the reason I'm even bringing it up, I won't be showing like the salon side of things, more than likely, unless people really want to see just all the wigs and everything. I guess the before and after is pretty drastic. You could barely walk through the place a couple weeks ago. But the yard also just total disarray. So we're going to be getting that fixed up. When I say total disarray, I mean there is a 2017 Toyota Corolla sitting in the backyard with vines growing over it. Kind of like disaster. Just a disaster. The yard needs a lot of work. It's small, but I think that'll be fun. Well, it's not going to be a fun activity. I think you all will enjoy getting to see all of that unfold. Lavender. I didn't film the repot because it popped right in here. I just had to add about maybe a ½ inch of soil all the way around, and that was it. I do think I should grab some scissors and come in here and clean this up. I guess I could even just snap them off. I think it'd be more fun and more satisfying with the scissors. It's not one of those things where there are some annuals, like I've talked about how I think that I should probably cut back my impatiens. They're going to get leggy. With those, the impatiens, you just cut them in half. Easy. With something like the lavender, it's more tedious. You can do that. You can just cut them back. But this one is already flushing out with a bunch of new growth. You can see like areas like this right here. It has a lot of good stuff going on in there, so I don't think that I need to come through and give it a chop like that. I just need to come in and give it a heavy grooming. It's more time consuming and more detailed than just going through and we'll make 4 nicer looking plants. And I only have like 2 lavenders out here, so it's not that big of a deal to come in and just snap all the crusty stuff off. Although, like I said, I do think it would make more sense to use my snips or a pair of scissors so I just they go a lot faster. But here it is. It's in the wooden bowl. I think it looks nice. It's just a wooden bowl. It has holes in the bottom for drainage, and it should be fine right here. I think this will actually be a really good spot for it because the lavenders, they do like to dry out, at least where I live with the humidity. They like to dry out some between waterings. That helps them a lot. I tried to make sure the plant was elevated some. I might come in with some gravel. I think it would be a good idea to put some of that underneath in here. Can you even see what I'm talking about? Between the base of the plant and the soil, because that's usually where things go wrong for me with lavender, is the moisture and the humidity, and then things start to rot out from down below. So if I have some gravel down in here to help just separate the plant from the soil, that would probably be beneficial to the plant. You see how moist everything is in there? That's not great. I did just water it too, so that's another reason for the moisture. So it'd look a lot better if I got this cleaned up. Is that a bad one? No, yeah, that was a bad one. See, that's the thing, is there's someone here that are just getting going, there's someone here that are done, so I'm going to take a minute to go through it and clean it up. I have my tags. Oh, no, this is actually the tag for it. The blue spear. English lavender, we already talked about all of that. I'm going to hold on to the tag, because I need to be able to refer back to tags with these videos. These are the tags for the sweet potato vines that are up there, and the hanging basket, which has been up there now for a few days, and it's holding strong, seemingly going to stay up there. Watered it a couple of times, and so far, so good. Okay, so now that's done, and then had our little side quest talking about hand sanitizers and what's going to be one heck of a landscape remodel or cleanup. I don't know how much is going to be added to the landscape, but I'm going to be getting it very much gutted here fairly soon. I need to fertilize, which isn't something I typically do in videos, but we've reached a time of year where I don't have a lot of planting to do. I have some things I could do. Some agaves over here that need to be planted up. I was going to plant them in here with this Adenidia palm, but then the root ball was larger than I thought it'd be. Well, I knew the root ball was. I thought there'd be more space in the new container to squeeze those agaves in. There's not enough space, so I need to just pop these into some pots. I don't know if you can kind of see them sticking out from around this very sad sun patient. I've been moving this impatient around too much. It doesn't seem very happy with me because I keep moving it to different spots. I need to set it somewhere and let it stay. The fertilizing is something that I have fallen behind on. I'm generally pretty good about fertilizing. Last summer and the summer before, I was fertilizing with basically every single watering at about a quarter strength. This year I went really heavy on the organics in the gardens, and I think that was great for a few months. And some of the plants, not all of them, but a lot of the plants, like the alocaceas, bananas, and some of the palms, they've reached a point where they need some extra feed to really keep their stride going. And that's partially because the sun has gone lower in the sky. They aren't getting as much sun as they used to, so I need to get some fertilizer into them once a week from here and on to help drive that growth and help keep them looking nice. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll do some fertilizing. I don't do anything special. I fill up this thing with water. I had 3 cups of the fertilizer. We can talk about the fertilizer here. I'll go ahead and show you what I'm going to do. This is just the Stay Green all-purpose plant food. So it's a synthetic. This is a quick feed. I like to have a combination of rich organics in my soil, earthworm castings, compost, true compost. It shouldn't have any scent to it. It shouldn't be full of big wood chips. A good compost, mushroom compost. Good stuff. I like mushroom compost a lot. I top dress my containers with those in the springtime. This year I used the Lane and Sea compost, which the base of it seems to be peat, so I feel like we should actually be calling that a soil, a potting mix, not a compost, but it's a conversation for another time. Synthetic fertilizers are a quick feed, right? So this is something where if you're going to do it, it's something that it's better to stay consistent with because it's just a quick burst of food, whereas the organics are things that can break down slowly and provide essential nutrients and elements really to the plants over time. It feeds all the mycorrhizum, all the good stuff down below the soil, and really, if you have things balanced out well enough with all that, you don't really need to be doing a synthetic fertilizer. I do it because I have some plants out here that I like to get a ton of growth out of, plants that respond very well to the, I keep on saying systemic. Synthetic fertilizers are things like the bananas, the alocaceas, the colocaceas. That's mostly what I focus on, and the gingers. The really, really, really heavy feeding plants, they like it a lot. And then also the palms, I like to make sure that they get hit with it too because, well, I just like to make sure I can get as much growth out of them as possible every single year because they spend a good amount of time in a greenhouse out of my control. The big ones, you know, they go off, somebody else takes care of them during the wintertime, they go off to a warehouse, greenhouse sort of situation. And I think it's essential to their survival to make sure that they're getting tons and tons of feed and tons of nutrients, only as much as they'll take up, right? There's no point in going excess with the directions on these things because they're only going to take up what they're going to take up. Too much is always a bad thing with fertilizer. So this Stay Green fertilizer, I've only been using it this year, and I like the breakdown, 24, 8, 16 on there. So it's got a good amount of nitrogen. Okay, you gonna stay there? You gonna hold still? Moderate phosphorus, and then moderate potassium. I like that. Not necessarily the ratio that I really like. My favorite ratio that I've seen so far has been in the Jack's Classic Petunia feed, which I have a ton of inside. I ordered a whole bunch to get me through the year, and I haven't used any of it. So I'm going to be alternating between using this and that Jack's Classic every week. Well, actually, maybe I'm going to stick with once a week until probably mid-September. So I have about 6 weeks that I can be doing this. That way I can use up all the stock that I have too. It's a big waste to not use it. I bottle the stuff, I want to use it. So with this, it's a tablespoon per gallon of water. This is a 45-gallon container. So I just add roughly 3 cups. It's 2.81 cups, it's 45 tablespoons. But I just do 3. Just a little under 3 cups, and that's fine. That's all there is to it. The reason I do it like this instead of using the hose and sprayer is because I have just had a lot of issues with hose and sprayers over the years. They jam up, they don't have the best pressure, or my hose doesn't have the best pressure, I should say, so I have to stand really close to the plants when I'm doing it. And I am usually left wondering whether or not it's giving the full dose that I want it to. It can be hard to tell. Whereas with this, I just know, hey, this is 45 or 44 point something gallon bucket on wheels, not bucket, this is a trash can on wheels. And I just use a pail, scoop it up and dump it in the plants. See, I already have my little mixing cup in here. Not a mixing cup, measuring cup, just a plastic one. I don't use the ones from in the house anymore because, well, got tired of those going to waste. After I use them for something like this, I'm always like, I shouldn't use them outside anymore. There we go. So that's roughly 1 cup. That's about 2 cups. I'm going here for number 3. See if I can get it all scooped in there in one go. There we go. Easy. It's just fertilizing. This is acid fertilizer that I use on the macrophylas to keep them blooming blue, which has turned out to not even matter because for some reason hasn't bloomed. I don't know why, but haven't gotten any blooms out of that thing. Flip the hose around to a high pressure setting. Whoop, like that. Get that down in there. And let that spin and mix everything up. Once it's full, well, you'll see. Yeah, I'm just going to go around and water everything. pH. That's something to think about when using a synthetic fertilizer or just, growing your plants in general. Sometimes when you add a synthetic into your water, that's salt, it can buffer, it can acidify, it can shift around your pH. Typically it's good to be between 6 and 7, somewhere in there, which is slightly acidic to neutral, for best nutrient absorption with the plants. So I learned that when I add fertilizer, typically, mix it up, generally that shifts my pH around, and I already have a fairly high pH in my tap water. It's like 7, 8, somewhere in there. So typically I have to do something to acidify it. In this case, I found that I just add a little bit of the Miracle-Gro acid loving formula. It's not the best way to do it at all, but I just figure I have a whole bunch of it because it's something I used to use many, many, many years ago. It doesn't do much, probably as far as fertilizing goes. Actually, I don't know. I mean, it's still blue. It's still dissolved, so maybe it does. But I couldn't even tell you how old that stuff is. Like 7, 8 years old. Probably older than that. But when I have my pH pen and it's working, I can add that in and I can adjust the pH to make sure that it's around 7 or below 7. That's what's ideal for the plants. There are other ways you can acidify your water. That's what I do because I have so much of that laying around and it's fertilizer. So it's like, hey, why not? So this is now filled up to the brim. I just take this bucket and I just go through and everything gets a bucket of water. Oh, everything has been watered too. So the soil around all these plants is moist. Don't want to be burning anything, so it's good to make sure that you have nice moist soil when you add your fertilizer. Quick, see? I use that pail because it's just faster. I have the watering cans, but it takes longer to get them down in there and scoop it up and carry them around. You have more control over it, so there's less spillage. But with that pail, which is 1.3 gallons, it's so quick. You just do a scoop, and then with these really large pots, I just chuck it and dump it. This 45, well, there's still some left in here. It's hard to get the stuff out of the bottom. That got me to right here. So from right here to the Eureka Palm, that's what 45 gallons got me. And that's because some of these plants are quite large and took a lot of fertilizer. The Eureka Palm got 3 buckets, Foxtail Palm got 2. The Windmill, Queen, Adenidia, and Robolini all got 5 buckets. And then, dispersed smaller amounts around everything else except for plants like the Impatiens. I don't fertilize Impatiens. I make sure that they're in a nice rich soil, but I don't take time to make sure they're getting fertilized. They just don't need it. And sometimes when you use a fertilizer like this one that's so high on the nitrogen, they won't stop flowering. Typically they're Impatiens. They'll keep flowering, but it'll wither their flowers. Maybe they won't open up all the way. If I were to fertilize my Impatiens, I would go with something more like this Petunia feed right here. So this right here, I like a lot for growth and keeping the plants nice and green. This one right here, I like for both of those things, especially because this one has the iron in it. Made for the petunias. Keeps them green, keeps them growing. Petunias, they're a heavy feeder, right? So that's what that's about. I'm talking about mostly potted plants. The stuff in the ground, I don't fertilize the same. Unless they're things like the gingers and bananas, then I'll go ahead and just dump a bucket on them. Keep them growing because they're heavy feeders. But all the other perennials, with the exception of, like I said, the gingers, bananas, colocaceas, cannas, but my shrubbery and trees, no, they get tree tone, plant tone, holly tone, whatever. They get some type of organic amendment, a top dress of compost worked into the soil in the springtime, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes around this time of year, if I have a whole bunch of one of those left over, I'll go through and give things top dressing with some more of that. But hitting them with a liquid synthetic, I don't find that they need it. I also like to be minimal with my synthetics in the ground because those salts build up and they collect, and that can be a problem. So unless you're somebody who's really on top of watching your soil chemistry and taking samples and getting things tested and whatnot, it's a good idea to use those things sparingly or alternate your years. I've done that before. Well, I'll have some years where I'm just fully organic, just compost and the tones, and maybe I'll use like a seaweed extract of fish fertilizer, something like that. I don't use those that often anymore because I've found that they just attract a lot of bugs and a lot of critters because they're so stinky. They're great products, but yeah, they cause issues with that. And mostly Toby, who's passed, like to dig those things up because it was so stinky. The synthetics, it's hard to flush them out. In a potting mix, it's easy to flush the salts out. Right? You just make sure you run a ton of water through it. Hopefully it's not something like a succulent or something that can't handle that. But typically, if you're thinking that you have a lot of salt buildup, then you can flush that out. This time of year, I'm watering so much and so often that I don't really worry about salt buildup with these plants. Something else I could do, just, thinking out loud here, bring you all along for the journey in my brain. The Stay Green, this is mostly focused on growth, but it has a fair enough amount of other things in there to help your plants flower. This one right here is for growth and flowering. I could do something similar to what I used to do up until this year where I just fed it a quarter strength every time I watered. I have a dispenser in my hose built into the hose so I can put this stuff into. That'd make it so whenever I ran the hose, there was a little bit of fertilizer coming out with the water. Instead of doing that and doing this once a week to maybe once every 2 weeks, then I could do twice a week at half strength with both of these and alternate them, really getting a good balance there. I like to make sure I'm looking at all the micros and macros inside of my fertilizers. I really like that this one has the molybdenum, however you say that, manganese, the iron, the boron, magnesium. This actually has a lot of stuff in it that's great for palm trees. In fact, one of the reasons I like this fertilizer so much is mostly because of how great the palm trees seem to like it. It has a similar breakdown, nutrient-wise, element-wise, really, minerals, to a lot of fertilizers that are made for palm trees, but it's easy to dissolve in water and give quick feeds to things. So if something is turning yellow and I'm seeing that it's nitrogen and not, something like overwatering, underwatering, or a chlorosis, then okay, nitrogen. Give them the nitrogen. But if I have other things where I'm like, well, your growth just isn't great, not getting much growth, much flowering, and everything else seems okay, then I would go with something like the Petunia feed, right? Thirsty plants that want a ton of nutrients, they just want a lot of feed, all the plants I keep mentioning. And then this right here, I actually like this more as an all-purpose feed. These are both really what I would consider to be a good all-purpose, but like I said, this one right here for the palm trees, they really like it. They really like this stuff. I get nice, sturdy green growth out of the palm trees with that one. This one right here. And of course the petunias like it too. More plants, I should have talked about this when I was talking about plants I don't fertilize. Not just impatiens, the Vinca, Catharanthus, I don't typically fertilize them, but they do end up getting fertilized because the Gossia palms get fertilizer. So I try and be sparing with that. I generally wait until I'm at the bottom of the bucket and I'm using this one right here. So when this gets low to about this point, that's when I'll go ahead and I'll double the amount of water that's left in there. There's this much, I'll raise it up to this much, and then I'll use that fertilizer for things like the Gossia palms or anything else I'd be concerned about the roots burning when I use the fertilizer. These two are really not very different. These numbers, it might seem like, okay, 26, 22, huge difference from 24. No, it's really not. If you're doing it consistently, it shouldn't make much of a difference. The only difference is this one doesn't have quite as much of the micros in it, but it's got a good amount though. This is a really good fertilizer. I've really been liking it. For its cost, I think that this was $25 or $30 for this big 10-pound bag. Pretty dang good, because this is $25 or $30 for a 4-pound bucket. You see why I've been using this one a lot this year? It's the same breakdown, 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. Something I do like about the Peters fertilizer though, Jack's Classic, is that I don't have my pH pen, so I can't validate this right now. But up until, I don't know, a month ago was the last time I did my fertilizing and I was using my pH pen. Every time I've used this, I haven't had to adjust my pH. This one right here, add it to the water, and usually it's around 6.7, 6.6, somewhere in there, which is perfect. With this one, I think my pH was at like 7.6, 7.8, if I'm remembering right. So I had to bring that down, which is why I added the Miracle Grow to it, which I've done in other years with different types of fertilizers, that acid stuff, and that worked. It would bring it on down into the 6s. Worked fine. You don't have to do all these things, by the way. It's just for ultimate nutrient uptake with the plants. You want to be below 7, typically. If you're a little bit over that, depending on the plants, not that big of a deal. A lot of it just goes down to what types of plants you're growing. Yeah, so I've talked about this one a lot in years prior. I love it. This one I'm using this year. I like it a lot too. It says in here, iron-loving plants. So this has that iron in it. I think it's chelated. It should be. It's available to the plants. It better be chelated. Yeah. 0.20. No, 0.05. Wait, which one is it? Yeah, 0.20 on the chelated iron. Good. And that doesn't always matter, right? If your pH in your tap water is really, really high, you may still have to adjust for that iron to be available. That's one of those things, nutrients? Whoa, what? Iron gets bound up if the pH is too high. So if your plants aren't greening up, that might be why. There are other fertilizers like Bloom Booster. I typically stay away from those. I have some, and I'm not going to be fake with you. I'll be like, oh, I never use that. I will sometimes. Plants that are being stubborn, and I'm going to rush to use them. I think this is, I don't know, it's very old. expired in 2020. So yeah, very old. 1255.6. Yeah, that's a lot of phosphorus. That's going to keep them flowering. 55, that's way up there. These can cause a lot of problems. This is something where if you were to use it, I would dilute it. I wouldn't do it full strength, half strength at most. And watch the plants, make sure the soil's nice and moist. And if you're noticing anything else wrong with the plant, any yellowing on the leaves, if there's anything aside from it just won't bloom and you don't know why, I wouldn't use this. So for instance, I have a hydrangea over here that should be blooming. I don't know why. It's a macrophylla. It's a Newport from Seaside Serenade Newport from Monrovia. And it's supposed to bloom on old and new wood. That thing should be blooming right now. I've gotten nothing out of it. And I have been giving it this right here. Yeah, not much in there to keep the plant moving and growing. Flowering, that is. So this, I could try a half strength on it and see what happens, but typically that's not something I would do. This I would use on, say, something like maybe an Alpinia. I have an Alpinia down there, has second year growth on it. It should be blooming, that shell ginger. I'll hit it with some of this, I don't care. I think it'll be fine. But I don't know. I would just stay away from those things, just to be safe. But if you have something that's being real stubborn, then maybe. But I would dilute these. Typically, a healthy plant will bloom for you. And typically, if your soil's really nice, you've built it up really well, you don't even need these synthetics. Synthetics can be steps backwards into building good soil, in fact. There isn't a clear-cut way to say use this, not that. It depends on your climate, depends on your soil, depends on what you're growing. There are a lot of factors that go into it. I like these two as far as synthetics go. I would prefer to not need to use synthetics, but with the amount of annuals and tropicals I have out here, it just helps. It makes things easier to hit things with the synthetic, you know? Timing-wise, I like to fertilize typically in the morning. Want to make sure that everything's already been watered, that the soil's nice and moist, and generally before like 11 a.m. is when I like to fertilize. And I'll water at nighttime. I'm not one of those people who says don't water plants at nighttime. I think that's a lot of garbage. If it rains at night, then you can water your plants at night. Depending on what you're growing, right? There are some things, if you live in an area where you have a lot of powdery mildew and those sorts of things, and maybe avoid that. Fertilizers at night, I do avoid that, only because when it gets onto the foliage, it's going to be more prone to sit there overnight. It's not going to dry. There's, generally not as much air movement depending where you live in the evening, and that can cause some burning on the foliage. So that's something to keep in mind, right? I don't usually start fertilizing with a synthetic until about June. I like to get all my annuals and everything taken care of and give them a few weeks to get going on their own before I'll even start using any of these types of things. And typically, I've told you, there's lots of different ways. I fluctuate with how I fertilize. The main thing about it, though, is that if you're not consistent, it's not doing much. But consistency doesn't matter if you're doing it to treat a symptom, which is the best reason to use a synthetic, really. So if you're noticing a nitrogen deficiency, then you need to build that soil up and bring some life into it. But it's okay to go ahead and use a synthetic to get things started, right? Because all those good organics take a while to break down and do much for the plant. So that's the situation we're going ahead and using it. I don't see any harm in it, but there are plenty of people, a lot of people, I'm sure I'll get yelled at for using these things, period, by someone in the comments. But I'm just keeping it real. I will use these. I'm not an organic gardener, but I do my best to use as many organics as possible. I try to not use any harsh chemicals. I don't, spray anything near flowers or where water runs off, and I try and do things at the right time of day if I even have to. I've been through it with many different strategies for pest control that's organic and the least impactful to the environment, harmful. So, but this is my thing that I do that probably isn't great, but it works really well, and I try and do it responsibly. So that, I guess, how would I explain that? So a lot of my soil around here drains to a storm sewer. That's why, another reason, I try to not use much of these things in the ground, because that all becomes runoff that ends up in a creek somewhere. I don't think that's great, right? That's why I try and use these things minimally in the ground. But the potted plants, I just give them enough so that it's there, but not fully flushing out the bottom of the pot. You know what I mean? And then I stop fertilizing altogether, like no more anything, whether it's organic or not, roughly 4 weeks before what's predicted to be the first frost, which can be tricky around here because we can have our first frost anywhere from October 10th to November 20th. They say, I think October 15th or October 30th is our average. That's changed over the years. I think it's now like late October. It was mid-October. But you just never know. Once October rolls around, it's like, well, it could be any day now or it could be months ahead. I live in the smack dab middle of the U.S., so you just never know where the weather's going to come from. But I like to give it about a month. I think most things say 6 weeks. I typically do a month. Okay, well, hey, that was fun fertilizer talk. I'm going to dilute this some so I can do those Gossia palms over there and then refill it and get the rest of the containers, and then we'll move on to doing something else. Hibiscus. I meant to mention that. Hibiscus, like a lot of potassium. So that's another reason I like this one. Good nitrogen, low on the phosphorus, high on the potassium. Some plants just like a good amount of potassium. You give a hibiscus a lot of phosphorus and it's not getting enough potassium and nitrogen, then the plant's going to look really sad. Probably going to have some spotting on the foliage. Just not going to be a very good looking plant. Phosphorus. Plants typically don't need a lot of phosphorus. They don't typically need a ton of potassium either, though, right? Generally, things are pretty balanced. You shouldn't have to add calcium or those things to your soil very often. It's just one of those things where you have to watch out for a deficiency and know what you're looking for to really decide if you need those things in your soil or in your fertilizers. With annuals, this is a good breakdown. I like it a lot. This would be great if it were more like a 20-10, 18-20, something like that. I think I would like this, or even, I mean, you could even have the phosphorus as high as a 30, and I think that that would be okay as long as you have enough potassium and nitrogen in there. But that, I just feel like it just shocks the plants. This helps plants bloom. Yeah, I mean, it'll trigger them to bloom, that's for dang sure. But it might halt a lot of other things that are going on. The chelated iron's at 0.10%. That's sort of surprising. This right here, the chelated, is at 0.15. This one was at 0.2, right? Something I guess I didn't fully go into with the hydrangea over here. I know I said we were going to do other things. We will. But I just want to finish all these thoughts while they're still rambling around in my head. This hydrangea right here, I think that I've just been giving it too much of the fertilizer that has all that nitrogen in it. So I'm backing off of that. I'm going to go ahead and give it a half dose of the bloom fertilizer. Why not? There's a rose behind it that's blooming. So it's not a sun issue, right? If the rose is blooming, the macrophylla hydrangea is definitely getting enough sun to bloom. And the rose is fairly healthy too. I don't know what's going on down below everything, but everything that's up here into the sun looks good. Things aren't stretched. I like the color. I like the color on the hydrangea too. It has some, scorch from when things were really hot, but why not? I've got nothing to lose with this one. It's in a pot, so I'm not introducing all that mess to the ground. I'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. Even a couple weeks it'll bud out. I don't know. Is that diluted? I think that's good. Well, I have another batch mixing up here. It's going to take a while because my water pressure sucks. I can get this crabapple repotted. I only have one big pot left, so I guess I can only do one of them. The weather right now is just ideal. It is prime for fertilizing and repotting. So I didn't talk about that either. Temperatures, when it's over like 94, 95, something like that, I typically don't fertilize. What's the point? The plants are in survival mode. There's no reason to do that to them. Lavenders, I don't really fertilize those. Rosemary, I don't usually fertilize those either. There's a lot of plants I don't fertilize. I guess I could maybe just say that there's a lot of stuff I don't fertilize. Maybe just Google your plants and see if they're plants that like to be fertilized. I don't know. Not the most helpful way to say things, but I think you get it, right? That should be good. That's a nice big pot. And it's about 80 today. Maybe 84 is going to be the high, I'm not sure. And we're supposed to be below 90 for, I think 7-10 days, something like that. Which is just a great time for doing things like, well, messing with plants that will throw a fit if you repot them when it's really hot, like a crabapple. Japanese maple would be the same thing. Are there 2 awkwardly drilled holes in here and not a third one? I mean, that's fine. That'll do. Those are big holes. It's never a problem with the pindus, the drainage, not pindus, the mule palms. The drainage was always too much for them. Oh, yeah, this is going to be fine. That's a big upgrade. I believe this container, you probably can't hear me, I was looking for my microphone, so I thought I had measuring tape out here. I think it's 28 or 30 inches across. This was a Sunny Days planter that I cannot find for sale anymore. They have the next size down, which is a 24 inch. It's a beautiful pot, insulated. And by insulated, I just mean, it has 2 layers. as opposed to these rolled rim planters like the ones I have this Adenidia palm in over here, where it's just a single layer of plastic, but the edge is rolled over and nice and smooth. There's not much to protect it from the elements. So I do like these. Sunny Days, they're the ones where it's, you know, double walled, and Crescent Garden, they make a rolled rim planter, so it looks like that one I was just showing you, but it's insulated, has that air inside of it. I think that that is going to be good for the crabapple, since it's going to be in a container. This is a 4 or a 5, right? Zone 5? 4. It is a zone 4. All right, well, that should be just fine in a pot as long as I remember to keep it watered. Do I have enough soil? I have 3 bags of good soil. This soil is okay, but it's very wet. I'm not sure why. Oh, the fig's thirsty. I think I need to run the sprinklers over here. Everything's looking pretty dry. I haven't fertilized anything from here and over because I remembered that I think I need to water. Heavily need to water. These are on drip, so they're fine. It's just right here to right there. Things look like they could use a drink. Let's be smart about this and not pot it up all the way over here by the pool. Let's put this someplace maybe over here where it'll be easy to wash the soil off the patio. There we go. Yeah, that should be good. That was 2 bags right there. I also realized I could probably be using my nice camera today. I'm not used to this weather. Just instinctively picked up the phone because, well, the camera that the nice one, overheats like crazy. This one overheats a bunch too, but not like the mirrorless camera does. All right. Check this out. Make sure there's a good lip in here. It's going to settle some. I think I could take some soil out of there. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull a little bit of soil out, get this in there, and then grab some shrubbery maybe to underplant it with. I think that might look nice. Good Lord. That thing does not want to come out of this pot. That's the one thing about these root trainer pots is they grip. They grip the root ball. It's not very easy to remove things from them. It is really in there. Come on. Well, another good reason it's cool outside. Oh, you can't see any of this. It's just straight up shadow. There we go. That's better. That'll come out of there. This is not the easiest thing to do when I'm trying to not have my shadow in the shot. There we go. I didn't want to have to tear this pot up because I think this pot would be excellent for monsteras and big aroids. Be fantastic for them. Lots, a little bit of soil, not too much. Going to do my best to not disturb this root ball. It doesn't need to be disturbed. I think that that would just be detrimental to the plant. Get it centered as best as I can. Oh yeah, this pot's going to be great for a few years for this plant. Some good size on it. Huh. Oh, this is great. This is going to be so pretty. I'm cutting the suckers out because, well, no reason to keep them. That's going to be one of those tasks that just have to stay on top of. There's a, I don't know what's it called, sucker punch, something like that, that I think is made by Bonide. I think you can put down there to help kill those suckers off, but this is not bad. As long as they don't start resprouting from the sides of the suckers, won't be an issue. I could probably cut them down further than that. Want to make sure the soil isn't too high on the trunk. I think that's about right. And I have the heavy enough lip in here, they'll be able to give this big buckets of water during the winter time. I want it to stand outside with the watering can and gently water it so the soil doesn't fall out of the pot. I can just, boom, dump a 5-gallon bucket on it and walk away. Now, as far as underplanting goes, I don't know if I really have what I want. I have some new gen boxwoods coming in the mail, and I think that that would be really pretty under here because of that burgundy-ish foliage, and then that really intense, shiny, glossy green of those boxwoods. That would be really pretty under there. I think I have a Feather Falls carex that would look really pretty coming out the side of that pot as a trailer. I'm trying to think of things that will have more year-round interest, and the carex are usually semi-evergreen here, so that might make for a good spiller in the front, then have those boxwoods on the sides. I have those junipers too, which I could try. That might be an option. I don't know. Something to think about for right now. I'm gonna hold off on underplanting this, getting into the finer details until the new stuff gets here. Just need to get this watered in. I talked about these at the beginning of the video, right? I'm pretty sure I did. Right, Royal Raindrops Crabapple? Yeah. think that I did. This is going to take a lot of water to get it watered in, and this should be good in this container for a year or two. The big downside to doing things this way is that when it's too big for this container, your options are, well, they aren't fun ones. So option number one is plant it out into the landscape, which not bad, but that is one heck of a big hole that I'll have to dig for it. Option number two, move it to a larger container. Probably the easiest solution, but containers this size and larger are many hundreds of dollars. So that's not great. And then the third option is to do a root prune on it, which is something that you need to do at just the right time of year. You really should, have some practice at it. Do a full-on prune and a root prune and just pop it back into its pot. I've been doing that with this Areca palm for, 15 years. About every 4 years or so. Pop it out, give it a prune, pop it back in the same container. But it's a palm tree, right? Different story. And it's a palm that can take it. There are some palms where that would be a horrible idea. Like a Bismarckia, it would just die. Sable palms, they would just die. The crabapple, I don't know. It wouldn't need an intense prune. You only have to take about 1/2 inch to 1 inch off the root ball and then prune the foliage back and get some fresh mix in around everything. Time will tell. We'll figure that one out as things go forward. Time progresses. Oh, this is good. I went ahead and I mentioned there were a couple bags of soil over there that were more moisture retentive. They were heavy. I went ahead and I used those for this because, well, the biggest problem I'm likely to have with this one is being able to make sure that it stays watered during the winter time. We have very, very, very windy winters here, and things dry out quickly. The humidity is not very high. Precipitation is very unpredictable. We can have a ton of it, or we can have none of it for weeks on end. You just never really know. And when we do get snow, it typically stays extremely cold. I'm talking usually below 20 Fahrenheit for a long time, well over a week. So the ground freezes up and doesn't even become available to the plant until everything warms up and things start to melt. So those are just things to think about. I'm not sure if the crabapple in a pot is a terrible idea or not, but 50% off seemed like the right time to go ahead and give it a try. And I think that this shape and that beautiful bark and foliage during the fall, winter, and spring is going to look really nice over here. Remember, none of this is there. None of those palm trees, those tropicals, there's none of that there. It's just the furniture. Maybe the windmill palm that might be over here on that side of the staircase, but otherwise, nothing. That's why I wanted something that was nice and tall to have pressed back into that corner where the Robolini palm is, right behind the Adenidia, right there. You'll be able to see it through the windows. Hopefully it'll be able to flower nicely. It's more exposed being in a container, so I don't know. We will see about that. I could, if I were feeling very daring, go into this and do a prune on the entire outside diameter of it, see if we can encourage some more branching to flush out. I don't know. I'm going to take a dive into some of my weather apps and see what things are looking like for the rest of the month before I do that. If things are going to stay nice and cool, then yeah, maybe. That might not be a bad idea because it's pretty scraggly on the inside. And the more branches we have on here, the more flowers are going to be to see in the springtime, right? But if those branches are really new and fresh, like if I were to wait until, September to do that, then those branches might not even make it through the winter period. So I was thinking this might be the time to go ahead and just do a full-on outside prune. I like the height on it, though. I don't know, maybe I'll just leave it. I don't know. I got to think about it. Ooh, what would really take things to the next level with this container? I think the boxwoods would be beautiful. But some spruce balls, hey, come on, man. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. Stand up. Like how I just scolded the sprinklers, if you can hear me. Yeah, there you go. Sometimes it does that. You got to adjust the hose so it doesn't do that. In the landscape, the little stakes go down. Blue spruce balls with that kind of mahogany tone that's on the trunk there. You can't see it. I gotta walk around the other way to get to the trunk. Yeah, you see that? Beautiful color on the trunk of this one. That's not in focus, but you get it. Some blue spruce balls. Oh, that would look really pretty. Maybe even if I could find a yellow twig dogwood to put in the back, or one of those flame willows, that would be fun too, to have that in the background. All the texture from the willow or dogwood, and then the blue spruce balls. The thing is, they're so freaking expensive, those spruce balls. Just a thought. Lots of possibilities. Ultimately, what it's going to come down to is what I can find on clearance, because I don't want to spend a lot of money on plants to put in this container when they might not make it through the winter time, right? Oh. You know what'd be really pretty here? I have not a colocasia, a caladium over here that I adore, and it just escaped me. I never got it into a container, and I think that would probably be much happier. Plant it up into something. Can I even find the base of it? Come on. There we go. Oh, careful. Okay, well, all right. It wasn't thriving back there in that spot anyway. This is much better. Like these colors. This is I always supposed to say mesmerize. It's not mesmerize. Explosion. Caladium. Isn't it pretty? 15 to 20 inches. The leaves on this don't look anything like the picture. Let me show you these leaves. Look at that. Look at it. Isn't it beautiful? It's a calm color. That's the only way I can think to describe it. None of the colors are blown out. Nothing is vibrant and intense. It's just a whole bunch of calm color. Okay, well, that one's a little bit more intense, but this is what a lot of the leaves were looking like when it was getting some more sun. It started to become more shaded and getting a jumble of these lighter leaves on them. It'll get more sun in this spot, so that would be good. I also have some other things. I was thinking about what I was talking about with the spruce balls, and I don't know if it's a good idea. The spruces and some of the little cedars and junipers, more the junipers than the spruces, they just don't like a lot of moisture during the winter time, and I am going to have to water these, and it can be difficult to gauge how well watered evergreens are, especially in containers during the winter time. I don't know. I just don't see it going well. And expensive. Those spruce balls are pricey. I ran by a nursery and picked up some fun plants, which I guess we'll save those for another video, only because we're so far into this one. I don't want people to watch this video because they're going to see new plants and have to watch till the end, and I don't feel like re-editing everything and like having to do like phoniness, being like, oh, I'm going to go do this, when it's something I had done like way into the video. We'll just save it for the next one. But I got a bunch of fun stuff, some really colorful things, some of which can go under here. And like I said, I have some of those really beautiful new gen boxwoods coming in the mail that I think will fill this pot in very nicely. And I have some begonias from Southern Living on the way too, which would give the same effect as that caladium back there. Why is the fountain all dry? Where's the power? We blow a breaker? That's odd. Haven't had much rain. Head on hop back here to the dump garden and see what's going on with the breaker. Oh, look at this Sergeant Pepper. You know what? I didn't talk about these in the garden tour. I completely forgot. Sergeant Pepper, sprawled out, looking lovely. I had mentioned that I needed to move this and set it back there. Haven't done it. It still sits right where it is. It's fine. Those dogwoods are pretty easy to move. Okay, that's just a vine. I was a little bit worried about the redbud here. Let's get in here, see what's going on. That's not supposed to come off like that. Yeah? Light's blinking. Wonder what happened there. Yeah, I didn't talk about anything up here in the garden tour, did I? Oops. Okay, well, I'll keep it brief, because it's a bunch of just wildness up here. I just heard that it just tripped again. Did it just trip again? Alright, that means that something's going on that I need to investigate further. Yeah, huh. I don't know. Moisture must have gotten into something, or a squirrel chewed on a cord. Who knows? Also, sometimes it just gets stubborn, and it'll do that for a few days and then just stop. I don't know why. Easiest Pie Cherry. Down here, filling in. It's put on a good amount of growth. Look at all that. Beautiful. And I'm shocked that it hasn't gotten pulled. I really thought that was a goner. I figured somebody was going to see that and go, oh, it's a weed, and rip it out. Hasn't happened as of yet. The Airbrush Effect Hibiscus did do some blooming, and it's already done. So, I was hoping for more out of that, but it is the first year in the ground, so I'm not shocked that I only got a few flowers out of it. Hopefully it'll give us some more, but this time of year there's not as much sun up here, so I don't know. Is it? There's just two big growths out of that whole plant? Okay, well, you know how these things are. Next year, it'll do a lot more. Hopefully. One gladiola hanging out in here. That's what they do. They can be unpredictable. I don't dig them. They got to make it in order to stay around here. The milkweed's looking good. I have not seen any monarchs. Maybe one. Maybe I've seen one monarch this year, which is very concerning. Oh, that's a big weed. That's a really big one. Try and get that one all the way down the ground. There we go. Yeah, I have milkweed everywhere in here. I haven't seen them. I don't know what's going on. It is concerning, though. Everything's a little bit blown out. Did that HDR setting get turned on? I don't know. Maybe it's just the haze, all the wildfires and everything going on. Blue Jangles hydrangea never bloomed. Not shocked by that because it has just never been a very reliable bloomer. So with this amount of growth that it has this year, and it didn't die down to the ground. It flushed back out from the wood. And it's getting the right amount of light. There's a, whoever this guy is, what Endless Summer hydrangea up here. It's blooming, and it's fine. It's been just doing its thing throughout the whole summer. Started very early, in fact. And I don't know, if this one's blooming and that one's not, I'm gonna get Jangles out of here. Taking up space, could be used for other things. Berry white hydrangea. I don't know what the deal is with this one. I think maybe it was just too much fluctuation when we had those extreme shifts with the temperatures. It had some beautiful panicles on them, and then they just fizzled out. Which is pretty unusual. They're not supposed to do that. They should hold on to their panicles all year. The other ones have been looking better, so it's their first year in the ground. I figure they're just, doing their thing, hopefully getting roots set out and gonna charge up for next year. Once these put on some more size, they only need to get about a foot or two taller, and they'll get so much more sun, and they'll do better. But I mean, you can see this guy over here has been fine. I know panicles need more sun than the macrophylla, but the macrophylla over here is getting just a little bit too much sun. So come on. And there's a hibiscus right below it that's been blooming. There's enough sun there for that hydrangea. Just going to need time. Irrigation up here has always been an issue. I don't have irrigation run to anything up here. It just gets whatever comes out of this sprinkler head down here, and that's the way I got to keep it. I don't want anything up here that is going to require a ton of water. There's a lot of natives up here, and the majority of the natives don't like heavy irrigation, at least not the ones that I plant. Gosh, there's so much freaking poison ivy up here. I've got to get that handled. Apple, it's okay. There's not much else to say about it. Neat looking espaliers, but the flowers just get blown off of them during the storms every year, so I haven't gotten any fruit off of them. Here's a berry white, getting less sun, has its flowers, so I'm thinking that back there it's probably more of an irrigation issue. I have a drip over here. See, there's a line with drip on it, but that does not extend over into there, so maybe I could just run one sprayer over there. It wouldn't be a terrible idea. Just think it's unnecessary. If the macrophylla is okay, the panicle should be good too. You know what I mean? It's good. I'm not too worried about it. Gigantosaurus hosta, not done much, but it has recovered. This got eaten down to the ground by a rabbit not long after I planted it, so I'm just happy to see anything coming from it. Sergeant Pepper dogwood. This thing, I'm just loving this shrub. I was thinking that we would only get to see this pink, white, and green variegation on it when things were cooler, but it developed that pink, I don't know, maybe a couple months after it flushed out, and it's held on to a lot of it. This isn't in full blazing sun by any means. This is, I would say, part shade to part sun at best over here. So that probably has an influence on it as well. But like the Arctic fires, you don't really see much of the pink tones unless you have cooler evenings and things move into the fall time. Sometimes in spring you see it too. At least, I mean, that's how it is around here anyway. This guy right here, it's had that tricolor for such a long time, throughout the entire summer. Just been great. And then the Catalpa, it took a break, and it's going to bloom, finally. I don't know what the deal is with those things. Flushed out way earlier than I expected any of the Catalpas to. They're not supposed to flush out until it's like really warm outside, kind of like a Rose of Sharon. Mine didn't. They flushed out very early in the year, and then flowered very early in the year, and then they're like, we're just going to hang out for a couple months. I don't know. It's fine. Got a lot of weeding done up here, but there's still so much more to go. That's what happens. This is a wild lawn over here, so it's violets and wild strawberries, basket grass. It's not basket grass, but something similar. And because of that, things jump quite a bit. You know, grass doesn't really jump, it crawls, or it'll jump if you don't mow it down and keep it from going to seed. But yeah, that's just part of it. I don't mind it. Just gonna have to get in here and spend some more time on it. The plants have been responding well to the sprinklers in here, though. I've only been running about 3 times a week for about 15 minutes to really give the spot a good drink. And that seems to be all that it needs to really get things moving, get that Florida sunshine nice and upright. That thing was so wilted and so sad. But having that system over there seems to have helped a lot. Let's see if there's anything going on here in the breaker. No, why would there be? That doesn't make any sense. The breaker should be fine if the outlet will switch on and off. It's getting power, right? I don't know. I'll figure that out. Really, generally when it's doing that, I just give it a day. It means something somewhere got wet. Need to let it dry out and then can try again. The goldfish will be fine. That thing is full of plants. Lots of oxygenating plants, and it's not hot outside, so they'll be all right. As far as this is concerned, I really just need to wait for the rest of the plants to show up to go ahead and underplant it. Even without it being underplanted, I just think it's so pretty, and I love the way it looks. I love the color of the foliage. This is potentially a good alternative to a Japanese maple, because getting a Japanese maple this size, even at 50% off, would have been probably $200 to $300. I'm thinking this one over here was about $300, and that was a steal. A steal. That thing's about 8 feet tall and a good, I'd say, 7 feet wide at the very top, and it's multi-trunk. Bargain. Absolute bargain for one that size. That's not normal. You know, the Japanese maples I usually see when they're about that size, usually more like 700 to 900 for a blood good. You know, that one's really big. And that also depends on the nurseries you're going to. Also, this place imports everything. They go up and handpick everything out from different nurseries in Oregon and Washington State and get them brought back down here. So there's a price that comes with that too. The crabapple, I'm getting a similar tone, kind of a similar texture. I like the color of the bark, and it was so much cheaper than a Japanese maple. Gonna get spring flowers out of it, ideally. Hopefully it's in a container, so that could change the flowering on it. It might actually end up being triggered to bloom too early because it's in the container. This root ball is going to warm up faster than everything in the ground. The ground takes longer to warm up, so that may make it want to flush out with blooms too soon. I'll just have to wait and see. I haven't made my mind up about the prune. I don't think it would be a bad idea. This branch right here has been bugging me though. This one. I think that one needs to go and let the trunk start from. Just pretend that's not there. I erased it. It's not there anymore. I think that's where things need to start out. But I don't know. It's one of those things. When it comes to tree pruning, sometimes I just need a day or two to just sit back and think about it and kind of figure out what kind of shape I would want the tree to have and where I want the bulk of the branches to come out and how I want this to look during the winter too. Where this is going to go, I do want it to be nice and big with lots of branches on it. So, I don't know. I could just leave it. We'll see. All right, that was fun. Talked way too much about fertilizer, but people asked me about it, so I figured we should just go ahead and talk about it for a while. Love that lavender. The hanging basket's looking great. I need to cut back some annuals, but I just don't want to do it. I don't know why. It's just so hard to pull the trigger on that one. Putting back the impatience. It needs to be done, but I just don't want to. It's risky. You just don't know this time of year. There's not as much sun over there, so they may not flush back out and look good after they get cut back. It wouldn't be the end of the world. They have nice caladiums and things over there. This thing is already bulking up. Can you tell? It's been 5 days since it got potted up, and about 3 days or something like that since it got hung. But I can really see the potato vines starting to get a better shape to them, and the begonias standing up higher. You can see the new growth shooting out from that sweet potato vine. I'm really looking forward to these things filling out and just having that color draping down from it. It's going to be so pretty. Yeah, okay. I hope everybody's doing well, having a great day, great life, and everything's just going absolutely beautifully for you. Comment down below, say hi, what's going on in your gardens? Have you ever done the crab apples in a tree? Fun tips and tricks with the lavenders. I'm going to grab my scissors and come out here later this afternoon and get that cleaned up. So congested. I'm pretty sure it's just the wildfire smoke. Everything's so hazy. Or it could be the Petri dish. I was around the Petri dish a lot the other day. Love that little dude so much, but oh my gosh, the germs. Kid's always sick. I don't usually catch anything from him though. And I mean always sick and like the normal, it's a baby and their immune system's building up kind of way. There's nothing wrong with him. He's good. He's healthy. Doctor's really enjoying his health. I don't know if that sounded, you know what I mean? He's good. The baby's fine. Took his first steps the other day. There weren't many, but he took a few of them, which is great. 13 months, right on track. He's been walking for a while, but he would like to use like one of those baby walkers or like grab the chair or like a plastic tote and flip it upside down and scoot it around. And that's how he was getting around, and he could go pretty fast. Had to take the walker ways and be like, hey dude, you gotta learn how to do this without the thing you lean on. If you know what I'm talking about, they make walkers for babies now. I think they have for a while, and they're good for a while, but they're, you know, they can sometimes hinder things a little bit. So they've been working on, like, you know, that's going to be a toy. You need to start walking. You get it. How did I deviate so much? Oh, I was talking about the Petri dish. All right. Yeah, that's it. I was going to say I'm going to work on this. I'm not. I'm going to leave it alone, the electric. Something probably just needs to dry out. All right, as always, and most importantly, everybody, keep on growing. Bye.